Hello, Speed Gaming. We are just about ready to start here. Both of our runners are ready today. We have our Week 4 preset of Fighting Champs, which is going to be starting our runners in a boss room. There aren't any interesting RAs for today, except that we are going to be allowing infinite speed. So that could come up if we get a boost ball sort of early on. There's a few different rooms we can start in. Basically, any room that has a boss or mini-boss, so, you know, Mama Shiga, Incinerator Drone, Hive Totem, all of the major bosses, Flogger Cardus, Omega Pirate. There's also some interesting ones shuffled in there. Parasite Queen, I believe, is a valid start room. Some ones that you wouldn't think of as bosses are in there, like Elite Research, where you have the fight with Philip, the Phazon Elite. And also the lab entrance where you have the pirate ambush is considered a valid starting room. So there's definitely a lot that we could have going on this seed. Because so many of the rooms are sort of later into the game, we're almost certainly going to have some starting items that go along with this. We are automatically starting with the charge beam, but the other items that we get are going to be up to the randomizer. And we're off. Gravity Suit, Ice Beam, Morph Ball, Power Bomb, and Thermal Visor. That's 5 extra starting items. And we're in Elite Research. That's very, very good. That can lead to a pretty jet seed. We've got a lot of different items available to us. And with Charge Beam, that actually bumps us up to 6 items in total. That is a Ice Beam that we're starting with. We don't have the Wave Beam. So that might be kind of close by, potentially. MightyCaesar having a little bit of trouble with the pirate man. Unfortunately, triggers its attacks. The basic behavior of the Phazon Elite is that it has to turn to look at you at the start of the fight before it can do anything. So Avvina, you see here, is just kind of circling around it over and over and never letting it get past that initial step, which prevents it from doing anything. And that's the Wave Beam on Phazon Elite. Ooh, that's a death from Avvina. Very unfortunate. It is interesting to note that we started with Thermal Visor. I'm kind of curious what that's going to be used for. There might be an item, potentially, if we find a boost ball, there could be an item in the workstation. That's kind of what's coming to mind right now. Ooh, Caesar takes a death as well. We started with no energy tank, so that's totally understandable. Avvina not looking too happy about this start. Doesn't quite realize that Caesar also took a death. One actually later in than theirs, so that gave him a bit of a lead. Gonna be doing a power bomb to get security access, which is their bombs. Very handy to have. That's going to allow us to use both. Actually, we don't have Spring Ball enabled for this seed. But we will be able to use the bombs in certain morph tunnel areas. It will also be useful in places where we're going to be feeling that lack of a space jump. Currently, we don't have one. Gonna be just checking on main core very quickly, presumably. I don't think that's gonna work. You know, trying to do some kind of bomb jump to get on the spider track, but I don't see that getting them anywhere fast. We're going to be taking the elevator now to Talon. This is going to get us into the lower part of the Great Tree Room. So we're not going to have access to too much from this area, but we will be able to, potentially we'll see something like reverse bar skip, but I'm not going to count on it. Unless we started with boost ball and I'm just forgetting. We are going to be looking at Hydro Access Tunnel because we do have our gravity suit. That was one of our starting items. And now that we have bombs, we can get this item in half. The timing on this multiple bomb jump is a little bit strange because of a combination of the physics and the sort of jets of water pushing you up. So a lot of people struggle with this when they wouldn't struggle with a triple bomb jump normally. It's going to be getting us a plasma beam. Very helpful to have. Avvina taking a moment to consider. Of course, we don't have super missiles, so we wouldn't be able to get biohazard containment. But I believe that technically we could go for cargo freight with Gamma. I'm not sure if we could get back with NSJ. Oh, we can't get there anyways. The shaft that you have to take upwards is definitely not possible without space jump. That almost slipped my mind. A Zero E-Tank Omega Pirate? I seriously doubt that. There's so many items in mines on the way to that. You know, I just don't see it as likely. Plus, we don't have any way to get there. We need something that can get us across MQB. We have currently neither the Spider Ball... We don't even have the Space Jump, so that's not going to be in the cards. And now that we have Plasma, we could be getting that item in Storage Depot A, which is normally where we get the Flamethrower. Avvina taking a moment to think. This isn't usually a routing situation that a lot of our runners are dealing with, so they're just kind of having to run the brain computations to figure out where in the heck we can actually go. Which is what you saw back there, where they were doing kind of the same math I was to realize, oh yeah, we can't actually go any further back in Frigate with our current items. MightyCaesar... Trying the same, like, sort of bomb jump thing that Avvina was going for a minute ago. They're kind of trying to sort of push themselves subtly into the track a little. The big secret, of course, is just to manipulate the bomb's timer. There's actually a timer internally. From the moment you play the first bomb, it sets a timer that says you should get your bombs back in however many seconds. So what they do there is they lay that first bomb, and then they wait. So, and they time it so that they can use both of their other bombs, and then immediately after they use both of the remaining bombs, they get 3 more from the bomb refill timer. Because using a bomb, again, doesn't actually change the timer in any way. It only depends on the time that you lay that very first bomb in the chain. So that can be abused, like we saw there, to get to places that are a little bit higher than you were intended to get to. Caesar pulling a little bit ahead again with some just some very good movement and some fast thinking over the past few minutes. Spider Ball in Storage Depot A. That is going to enable some more stuff in mines. And we can combine that actually with our Morph Ball bombs to climb up the main quarry. Ooh, Avvina takes a second death. That's no good at all. Let's see, I'm not sure if they've saved. I don't know that they have. I think we're back to the start. It's gonna be a space jump in main quarry. Avvina gets their wave beam back. MightyCaesar makes it up to the top of or processing again. Gonna head back to main quarry or reconsidering. Yeah, we're going back to main quarry. Honestly, it is really mean that we haven't seen an energy tank yet. This is just very, very hard to do with no extra wiggle room. Just why you've seen, I think, 5 deaths at this point, maybe more. Now that we have that space jump, MightyCaesar's gonna be going backwards through frigate. Now, we won't really be able to check biohazard. There is a way to check that through the little gap between the door that you blow off with the super missile and the surrounding wall, but I didn't see MightyCaesar. Oh wait, I thought that last room we were in was biohazard, my bad. Now we're in biohazard, we'll probably see that. I couldn't quite tell, it sort of looked darker color, so maybe not a missile. Hard to say. It didn't give me energy tank vibes. I don't know what to make on it with that resolution that I'm getting on the restream. Freight Lift Gamma is nothing. We do need missiles, it's worth noting. That's our first missile of the run, but it isn't logical missiles. Notice that we just got a missile expansion. Randomizer intends for you to find the missile launcher. That's how you know that you are supposed to have the missiles at that point. Now we can use missiles with just an expansion. The launcher doesn't actually do anything unique. It is effectively just a renamed missile expansion. But we aren't intended to have it quite yet. Avvina reacquires the plasma beam. Something to note about Frigate is that it's much easier actually to go through it backwards, when you have the items, of course, than it is to go through forwards. You'll notice, for those of you who have played the game, you'll notice that we didn't actually activate any of the power conduits that you're normally supposed to do going through that area. This isn't like a bug with flags or anything, that we haven't somehow tricked the game into thinking we're further along than we're supposed to be. The conduits are still very much there, and we have not activated them. But because we're going through backwards, we basically get to skip them. The conduits only control one side of the door. It's essentially the way I explain it. The other side is always just going to be normal. And so because we're coming through backwards, we only see the side that's always active, and never have to touch the conduits at all. Caesar immediately doing a Frigate crash site climb. We have the ice beam, so we can get Overgrown Cavern and hit up this elevator if we want to. We're probably just going to be getting Cavern and then going to Hints. But I wouldn't really put the opposite play of past him. Yeah, we are going to go do Hints, do some other early talent stuff, and probably take the front elevator into Chozo if I would have to guess. Frigate Crash Site itself just has an expansion as well. We are going to be able to get the item in landing site since we already have the Morph Ball. Caesar taking a moment to consider. So far, both runners have commented, is what I'll say. They've commented on the start, but they haven't really said much else. So these pauses aren't them tabbing out to say something. They are just genuinely kind of a little bit confused with how to move forward. Again, this is not a set of circumstances we see very often. This is very much something unique to the seed that we have. And there's Avvina picking up their spider ball again. Alcove is another expansion. Normally we would be happy about a missile expansion in Alcove, but we're not starting at the ship today, so that's not going to be that helpful. MightyCaesar trying to slope jump here. This isn't actually necessary to get where he's trying to go. It's just faster if you hit it. I presume he's trying to go to Artifact Temple. Yeah, now he's sort of given up on that route. Just going to take the long way around. Yeah, we're going to Artifact Temple. Avvina, meanwhile, is going to be taking a save. Now that we have that spider ball, we can just climb the rail normally and take a save. So we are, if we die again, if we somehow die again, which is entirely possible, again, we still don't have E. Even Caesar doesn't have any energy tanks yet. We've only found missiles. Even if we do take a death, we're just going to be sent back to here with all of these items still intact, which is very, very good to have. Avvina taking a moment to look at the map, think about what they have and haven't done. A missile on Artifact Temple, another expansion. Interesting set of artifacts. A lot of those seemed pretty nice. Warrior Shrine, for example, is not that difficult to get to. It's pretty far away from our starting location, but that is not going to make a huge difference. I didn't see a lot of those, actually. We'll get to see in a little bit when Avvina heads over. Checking artifacts now, I think, is the sensible choice because we have so many items at this point. We're going to be checking Transport Tunnel B now. We don't have the various suits, so going into Magmor with this health is not going to be feasible. We can get an item from TTB, another missile expansion. With our current items, we could actually go for both Arbor Chamber and Root Cave. We have the Plasma Beam, so we won't have to do the out of bounds if we want to get Arbor Chamber. MightyCaesar is going to be doing that. Does the dash across to skip the grapple requirement. We do fall down, but it's not at all difficult to get back up. Nothing in Root Cave. Arbor Chamber is a power bomb. We already have main PBs though, so it's not going to be significant. We are going to get a second look, potentially, at the biohazard item. Thermal doesn't help. You need X-ray. Yeah, that looks like E. That looks like E. That's definitely energy tank. Upper Shrine is going to be another missile. Avvina gets their first missile expansion and cargo freight lift. Okay, MightyCaesar makes the first dash. You can see that his dashes are very much like just a straight line. That's important in this room. You don't want to curve your dashes. And they get up with no difficulty whatsoever. For another missile expansion in Tower of Light. You still have Tower Chamber. That could be something. It isn't. It is worth noting that just with the amount of starting items we have, and with the amount that we necessarily had to find immediately after, a lot of the game is open. We don't have the various suit, but that's like one of the only items that we're missing. That's going to be our flamethrower for MightyCaesar. That isn't actually going to be important in the slightest. It's kind of a meme item. It does nothing. It's not even useful for combat. Avvina takes another death, but as we mentioned earlier, they have a save next to main quarry. Oh, they took an additional save in Talon. That's going to be very handy. This appears to be the save station before a cargo freight lift. So definitely could be a lot worse there. Another nothing on Hive Totem. We are really going to be running dry for a while, and that's just because we've already found most of the things that we generally want to find in this game. Again, the only items we have are suits, the X-ray visor, super missile, the boost ball, and the grapple beam. Besides that, it's just our 6 artifacts that we already know the location of. Or at least Caesar knows the location of. I had to look away when we were reading hints, so that's going to be a little bit unfortunate for me. It's sort of a reverse dramatic irony thing going on. I don't see anybody, I don't think anybody's put it into chat what the hints were. If you can do that, I would be indebted to you. But if not, that's fine. Avvina's finally out of the woods now, going to be heading to a landing site. It's going to, I assume, take probably a nice ship save. Okay, Mayo Rabbit in chat. Thank you very much for recording those artifacts. We have today Warrior Shrine, Elite Research, Life Grove, Lava Lake, Magma Pool, and Storage Cavern. Okay, those are all very easy artifacts, assuming that we get our various suit in a timely fashion. The big one that could get us is Elite Research, which requires the boost ball. That is our starting room, though, so it's going to be, when we get the boost ball, snap. We can just go there the moment we get to any save station in the game. That's good, since that's where we're going to be going to if we save one. The other ones that could present a challenge, Life Grove also requires boost ball. We already have all the other things that we would need to do Life Grove, power bombs, morph ball bombs. That's all taken care of, as are the beams to get to that location in a timely order. But yeah, besides that, it's mostly just that various suit and that boost ball. Magma Pool could also present challenges if our runners aren't comfortable with the scan dash, but we have gravity suit, so we can actually just kind of hop out of the lava at the very end of the room, just, skip the entire grapple point system entirely. So that isn't likely to prove a huge obstacle if they're aware that that's something they can do. MightyCaesar gets a second energy tank. After this start, they are not going to be saying no to that. Storage Cavern is going to be the farthest of our checks. That's going to be right on Pendrana's edge. So that's going to take a while to get to it. It's not near anything else that we know we need. But again, in terms of items, we have most of what we need. The Phazon suit is really the only thing that can throw a scanner in the works. MightyCaesar picking up the super missile. That's one of our missing items already accounted for. That was in, of course, Watery Hall. Mayo Rabbit, you're correct. I was thinking of Storage Cave. Storage Cavern is just off of Triclops Pit, which is even less challenging to get to. Seeing how many stuff we have already to do in Magmore, that's not going to be a challenge at all. That could mean that Fen is potentially deleted from our seed. The grapple beam is going to be in Main Plaza Tree. That's another one off the list, so Magma Pool is now completely free. As if it wasn't already. MightyCaesar's going to immediately turn around and go get that. We don't have the Various Suit, but we have 2 E-Tanks, which is plenty for a single room. Actually, it is worth noting that because we don't have that Various Suit, we aren't going to actually be able to grapple in a heated room. When you take damage, you get immediately knocked out off of the grapple point, and that includes heat damage. It does appear that we aren't actually going for Magma Pool right now, though. We instead move through Arboretum to Gathering Hall. Probably intends to do Zoid. We have the bombs, so that's a safe check for us. It is worth noting that we don't technically need the boost ball to finish this seed with our artifact locations. Oh, MightyCaesar getting bullied a bit by the flamethrower. It has a habit of doing that sometimes. It can kind of push you and make it hard to move out of the way. Ooh, Ice Spreader behind Zoid. As I was saying, we don't actually need the boost ball to complete this game. Life Grove, you can technically make it through Life Grove Tunnel with just bombs. It's very difficult, but there is what's called a half-pipe bomb jump, which is sort of a bit of a tricky maneuver that allows you to bomb jump up the half-pipe. And you can actually skip the half-pipe altogether just by using bombs to get over it, but that is, of course, a risky strategy to take. And the spinner, if it's on the spinner item in Life Grove, and it could also be the spinner item in Elite Research. In fact, we know it is because the lower item was Wave Beam. You can also do spinners without the boost ball. It's a bit tedious. Life Grove, there is actually a way to sort of roll in there and just in a single go roll the spinner, but it's very inconsistent. Even the people who actually do that as part of the any percent speedrun are not necessarily the most comfortable with that. But if worse comes to worse, it is indeed technically possible to skip the boost ball. Lower Furnace is another energy tank. Avvina, meanwhile, acquires the flamethrower in Ruined Shrine. This is now moving on to Tower of Light. MightyCaesar struggling a bit there with the lip of that tube. I've not really seen that happen before, but well, Prime tends to do that. Collision in Prime is very much a case of what you see is what you get. If you can see something visually in the level, even if it looks very small, like a little bump on the wall, when you actually go in and view what the hitboxes look like, it almost always reflects the things that you see. Even like very tiny crevices and even bits of scenery that you think wouldn't have collision at all do tend to. And this is just kind of a natural product of the way that Retro does level design. But you don't generally tend to see much in the way of smooth areas where, you know, like some bumpy brick wall is getting replaced internally with like a flat rectangle. That doesn't really happen. This is actually kind of a big part of speedrunning in this game. It's the foundation for standable terrain tricks, which is what we just saw used a minute ago to climb up a ruined shrine. Crossway is just a missile expansion. Can be safely ignored. Gets a nice instant on the pipes that we morph under. Missile expansion in Hall of the Elders. We'll see in a moment what's an Elder Chamber, since we do have the Plasma Beam and the Ice Beam for this visit. We also have the Wave Beam if MightyCaesar doesn't feel comfortable with the difficult bomb jump to get up to the bomb tunnel, or the morph tunnel, without the Wave Beam. Technically, this strategy that we see Caesar doing is faster if you can get it quickly. But you can see runners definitely struggle with this one quite a lot. Ah, that one was very close. We nearly made it in. This is going to be reusing that technique I described earlier where you abuse the bomb reset timer's behavior. This is very much close to that. We're also going to be abusing the geometry a little bit. By rolling into that corner, we can slow the rate at which we are being pulled back down to the ground by gravity. Just ever so slightly. And all we had to do was scan that terminal at the end of the tunnel. Now we can just jump up there whenever we want. Nothing in Elder Chamber. Gets a bar skip like a champ. That was incredibly good. Bar skip is very, very tricky. And MightyCaesar is opting not to actually activate the spinner, which I think is definitely a smart move considering our starting location. We don't really have to bar skip if we don't want to. It just happens to be a very convenient way to get where we're going. Avvina acquiring their super missiles now. Boombox has a missile for us today, not what we need, but we'll be taking it anyways. Brings us up to a cool 90. Avvina, meanwhile, is getting their ice spreader. It's a handy item to have. We might see an all combos seed. It's very possible. It is worth noting that MightyCaesar skipped Elite Research. We're still hoping to find that boost ball, so we opted to go through Waste Disposal directly to Ore Processing instead of heading through Elite Research. That's definitely the better decision right now at this point in time, because we still have a lot of the game to check. We still have items that we really need. That Phazon suit in particular, and the Very suit I would think is even more important. Technically, you don't need Varia to complete the game, but in our case, we almost certainly do. Having an item in Warrior Shrine, after all, is going to be that's essentially the worst item, that's the worst item you can get. Oh, and not to mention Storage Cavern, Lava Lake. The very worst item is Upper Fiery Shores in terms of VMR. That's my opinion. But Storage Cavern is giving it a run for its money. They're very close, honestly. That's a missile behind the grate in ventilation shaft. The grating always makes that item look like a plasma beam if it's missiles, but don't fall for it. It's a missile. Caesar decides he wants it anyways. Oh no, that was a thermal visor. Completely fooled me. Or an X-ray visor, rather. We started with thermal. The grate there is it always deceives me. E-Tank and Central Dynamo. MightyCaesar wants it. Doesn't attempt to do the maze skip. We're just going to do the maze normally. Get it over with. This one was feeling kind of brisk for a moment, but that last bend made it, sort of average, I would say. Not the worst. Going to the save station. I'm taking a safe to save. It's been a while since our last save. We do have a decent amount of energy for lower mines, but it never hurts. It's 2 PB drops. Nearly full. Thankfully, we've been pretty good about picking up power bomb expansions, so we've got a lot of power bombs to work with for lower mines. Heat runs actually can't be required in tournament settings. VMR is not an enabled trick, and even if it was, beginner level VMR would not enable all of the artifacts that we have. For those unaware, trick difficulties are a thing in Rando Avvina, so essentially you can toggle different types of tricks, so you can say, I want to do slope jumps, I want to do standable terrain. And you can also set them at a specific difficulty. So your difficulties would be beginner, intermediate, advanced, expert, and hyper mode. And all of the tricks that we have enabled for this tournament are only enabled at beginner level. So something like a VMR 2 storage cavern is completely out of the question, completely off the table. It's still completely possible, mind you, but it will never be something that the randomizer actually asks you to do. It's very much something that the runners are going to be doing on their own initiative. There will be various that we can get. Missile and fungal hull access. The Hunter Metroids are really annoying, so you'll see MightyCaesar is going to choose to take care of them. Normal Talon Metroids will often dodge around, we'll kind of just avoid them. But Hunter Metroids have a very powerful, annoying, sustained range attack, which can incapacitate you for a good chunk of time and also knock you down or interrupt your jumps. So you always want to be proactive with them. It's not worth taking any kind of risk. We don't have the boost ball, so we are going to fall down in PMT, but the damage is pretty minimal. And it's a missile at the bottom of PMT. Not interested in coming back for that. Oh, and Fungal Ball B currently, which is actually pretty chock full of Metroids compared to most other Metroid having rooms. MQB actually has fewer Metroids, despite having a Metroid in the name. Or at least it certainly feels like fewer. That's going to be our phase-on suit. That's very, very good news. This means that in addition to skipping that boost ball, we could also think about skipping various suit if we find enough E, because really, besides those items, the only things that we were looking for were that phase-on suit. We've already found both our visors, so we don't have to worry about visorless. So really, at this point, it's just a race to the artifacts, and after that, we're going to have final bosses. This is looking like a pretty quick seed, certainly. It did take us an hour to get this far, but that's mostly due to taking deaths and just taking things slow to try and avoid said deaths. We did find X-ray visor and ventilation shaft, so we are going to be opting to fight Omega Pirate. I think I agree with this, since it's going to spit us back out in PPC, where we can take the workstation elevator. That transitions very comfortably into getting, workstation. We have thermal visor as one of our starting items, so I'm suspicious of that item. The thermal visor was most likely intended for frigate, possibly, but I'm making no assumptions. That looked like a successful trooper skill. Ah, no, not quite. Timing there was a little bit off. I thought I saw them get hit by the power bomb. Choosing the super strats here. Now the thing about Omega Pirate is that it's actually completely deterministic which pool it chooses. It has two rules. One, it cannot choose the pool that you are, in terms of position, the closest to. It can never do that. Two, it can never choose the same pool twice. So after we find the first pool that it spawns in, it will just switch back and forth between them over and over again, so it's completely predictable. So by abusing that information, we are able to get it in a single cycle. We don't have to worry about it getting its regeneration. Just going to get this item very quickly. An energy tank. And we have a freebie item here in PCA. We'll see what that is in a moment. Phase-on suit was in Fungal Hall B. We already checked the PPC item earlier. We made a detour to do that. So we're just going to be heading directly up. Caesar struggling to tilt the camera up far enough to hit the pirate's turret that's sitting at the top of the room, but we do manage it. And now we're going to be doing this series of standable jumps to get up the room very quickly. This skips a lot of moving platforms and assorted nonsense. So it's definitely the preferable way to climb PPC. And this takes us to the workstation elevator. Magmor Workstation, despite being in Magmor Caverns, actually does not have any heat damage whatsoever. This is a common misconception among players, because by this point in the game you actually do have the Varisuit. The game sort of knows that you're supposed to have it. But if you get here without Varisuit for whatever reason, you don't actually suffer any heat damage. The developers never turned it on. Essentially the very first room in the path to get to Workstation, which is Twin Fire Tunnels, is going to have heat, and that's meant to sort of keep you from getting any further along. Because the intended way to cross that is with the spider track. And spider tracks, like I mentioned, grappling points earlier, you get knocked off if you take any damage, including heat damage. So it's impossible to climb that without Varisuit using the spider ball. However, the developers didn't account for it being possible to get across Twin Fire's tunnels using other methods. It's completely possible to get around using scan dash or even just an R jump. And with gravity, like we saw, we can just do a slope jump from the lava to get up. That's what we saw our runners do earlier. So the developer decision to not make any rooms after that one give you heat damage was based on false assumptions. Yeah, it appears Avvina is opting to do Flagra backwards. Now, doing it backwards has a few advantages to doing it by coming in forwards. The big one is that we don't actually have to fight Flagra. We just have to defeat Flagra, if that makes sense. Flagra doesn't actually start doing anything until we walk into the cutscene trigger at the start of the room. And we don't actually need to do that to deal damage to Flagra. These triggers are all present before we do that. The other advantage is that we can actually get more than one if we do it like this, because since Flagra isn't here yet, we can just stand in the center bit of the room. Normally we wouldn't be able to do this because Flagra would, be there and would deal knockback as well as damage to us if we tried to do this. From this position we can actually hit multiple damage triggers at once, up to 3 with task level of proficiency. But normally with a human precision we're only going to be hitting at most 2. From first glance, it appears we did hit 2 with that first power bomb, but I could be mistaken. Yes, it seems we hit 2. You'll notice that Avvina is actually positioning themselves very precisely to try and get 2 at a time. It depends on your power bomb essentially touching both of the triggers at the same time, more or less. So that's why we see such a careful setup. Because after we deal damage to one trigger, all of the other ones go invulnerable, essentially. We can only hit more than one if we hit them at the same time. So this setup allows us to save a lot of time because we only have to watch one cutscene at a time. No matter how many we manage to take out at once. And that's the last one. Now we're gonna see Avvina walk into the cutscene trigger at the start of the room. This is going to cause a cutscene overlap. Essentially, the animation of the Flagra fight starting is going to sort of intermingle with the animation that we saw of them dying, and it's going to save us a fair bit of time. Has some missile expansion on Flagra. We could see that on the way over. MightyCaesar does storage cave. Now our artifact was in storage cavern, which might have confused them. I think that's just something they wanted to do on the way, though. I don't think that's a mistake they would make. Probably just looking for our items. I think that was E at the bottom of Gravity Chamber. We are going to be getting the tank at the top of the room using this grapple point. There's actually a bit of a glitch that you can do if you're not careful in vanilla. If you use the plasma beam to break that ice, but don't get the item, there are some circumstances where actually you can soft lock yourself out of getting that item through the vanilla strat, because the grapple point will actually disappear if you break the ice and then leave in certain circumstances. I forget the exact nature of that. It is possible to get the item without the grapple point, but it's actually quite tricky. The slope jump to do that is very precise. We're going to be doing backwards labs now. This is going to skip doing observatory dash. We don't have the boost ball, so observatory can be a bit tricky going up. Because we're going through labs backwards, all we have to do is really drop down from the top of the room, which is where we're going to be entering from. So this is definitely ideal. And that's going to very cleanly lead into us doing the front of Phendrana if we don't find what we're looking for right away. Research Core, unfortunately, is going to be just a missile, but honestly that might be for the better, because that does mean we don't have to put the lab into lockdown by going to get it. I don't think that a charge shot is necessary for the Ice Scarabs, but I could be wrong. At least with Plasma. Avvina is taking a work start. The upper lab Aether item is just going to be a missile. I didn't see what the item in the glass was. Oh, it's just another missile. So the items that we have left in labs right now are going to be the item at the top of Observatory, the item in the Control Tower, which we're going to be coming upon very shortly, and the item in Research Lab Hydra, which is inside of a metal tank. We have the super missiles, so we can get all three of those items pretty easily. After that, we're going to emerge to Ruined Courtyard, which gives us some options. We could go one way to do Thardas and Quarantine Cave, as well as picking up Cumon. I don't know that we did Cumon earlier. I might have... MightyCaesar might have done Quarantine Monitor already, and I might have just missed it. We did come in through the workstation elevator, so it's not a stretch that he probably already did it. Avvina having a bit of a realization, possibly. Oh no, Avvina is opting to do boostless spinner here. So essentially, you get a little bit of sort of roll from entering the boost spinner in some circumstances. And even though you didn't actually boost, it's not actually measuring whether you boosted inside the spinner or not. It's only measuring how much you move rotationally. So that little bit initially is actually enough to very, very slowly move the laser. Not going to be doing our artifact, though. Avvina's not happy about it. We just wanted to blow open this wall, which is a little convenient if we need to go this way in the future. We know that that's not the case, though. Our X-ray visor is on the way. We'll be able to get every item. And one disadvantage of doing labs backwards is that you need to do this pirate fight to open the door lock on the door that we need to go through. That is normally a factor for going up Observatory. The game locks you into completing that fight by forcing you to do that fight before the boost spinner activates. But Observatory Dash skips that spinner, so the door is just kind of left unlocked at the top of the room. Let's see. I didn't see what's in Hydra. That's our berry suit. That's very big. That's big. That's big. That's one of that is the item we were looking for. Now at this point, Boost Ball is the only thing that we really would want to complete the seed. It is entirely possible to complete the seed without Boost Ball at this point. We're going to want to look out for it. Ignoring the artifacts, Boost Ball is extremely helpful for final bosses as a way of dealing with Ridley very quickly. So it is absolutely something. If we can get Boost on the way without too much hassle, that will save us time. That's our ruined courtyard item. Missile in Ice Ruins West. We're gonna head over to Fajana Canyon, take a look at that. Just missed the missile lock, but obviously we don't care that much about hitting it the first try. It's not going to cost us any time. Canyon doesn't have anything for us. At this point we have 7 power bombs. I think that's 7 E-tanks and a lot of missiles, so ammo and expansions aren't going to be that important going forward. I think it's 125 missiles that we have right now. So Caesar is probably going to feel pretty comfortable skipping anything that isn't a major item. I believe Lighthouse is a nothing. Quarantine monitor was a missile. Thanks for letting me know. Avvina picks up their X-ray visor and vent shaft. We have all the items we need right now to do everything in Chozo Ice Temple. We can do the statue item, and we can move on to Chapel of the Elders through Chozo Ice Temple and get the item there if we want it. Chapel of the Elders is a little bit of an annoying room. Annoying mostly just to get to. The room in between Chozo Ice Temple and Chapel of the Elders is a little annoying. It's pretty trivial if you have Screaming Ball, but if you don't, timing the jumps to get out from this underneath section is a little annoying. Because you see that MightyCaesar didn't do anything special there with the bomb timer, and it cost them. They bonked their head on the metal block on the way out. That doesn't give them problems the second time. Okay, MightyCaesar wants this boost ball. We need it. We're going to go get it, and we're going to do the fight to get it. Finding it here is very good news, because it means that we don't need to look any further. We've already done a lot of the game already at this point, but this isn't a last location by any means. We can just beeline through Magport to what we need. We don't need to think about Chozo anymore, although I think we already nearly full cleared it. The only things that we haven't done yet in Chozo are Magnet Pool, which we know is an artifact, TCA, and Training Chamber. So now we can very comfortably skip all of those items and just go to artifacts. There is nothing else in the game that would benefit us in any way. The only major item besides artifacts that we're missing at this point is the Wave Buster, which is completely useless. And of course, there is a wave door on the way out of Chapel. In vanilla, this fight is where you get your wave beam. So they put on the outside of that room a power beam door so you can get in. But there's a wave beam door on the inside, so you can't get out until you pick up your beam. And at this point, we have artifacts in Storage Cave, Lava Lake, and Warrior Shrine. We're going to be able to get all those three almost back to back. Storage Cavern, I meant to say. And that's Warrior Shrine. Giving us the artifact of Warrior. This is what it should be in vanilla. But I don't believe it is. And now that we have all our items, we can just completely skip Fiery Shore. We can completely skip that. That tunnel can be a bit tricky to get into. It doesn't give Caesar too much trouble, but the slope there is actually kind of steep for the Morph Ball to get up. So if you start that going up that slope with no velocity, like if you morph right next to the hole, it's very, very easy to struggle trying to get in. And this will be our second artifact, the Artifact of Life Giver. I'd like to thank again our wonderful tracker, that's Nasu, for tracking this race. They were a last-minute join, so it's definitely appreciated that we have the help. The mnemonic to remember Storage Cavern and Storage Cave apart from each other is that the Storage Cavern shows up in Magmore Caverns. So they have the same suffix there. That's an easy way to keep them straight if you have trouble remembering during a seed. Skipping the Lava Lake item? That is an artifact, Caesar. Possibly slipped their mind. This could come back to bite them. Avvina, meanwhile, acquires their phase on suit. Even if Caesar does make this mistake and sustains it for quite a while, just that difference in time. Caesar got the phase on suit like 15 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago. It's very far ahead at this point. Even if Avvina immediately goes to the two items that they need, I don't like their odds. Avvina now fighting the Plasma Pirates in Metroid Quarantine B. We have 6 energy plus a tank left, so we have to be careful. There are more Plasma Pirates behind the barrier, or they might have been Wave Pirates actually, but regardless, there are sources of damage. And our goal is going to be to get to the save station next to MQB to get a health refill. It's very possible that we take a death here if we are careless. Okay, manages to evade all of those projectiles. We're taking it slow, just luring this one Plasma Pirate out to defeat them before we move in. And now we get a save without any trouble at all. MightyCaesar, I'm glad to see, has gone back for the artifact in the Lava Lake. So that's not going to give them any grief later. At this point, we're going to go up to Chozo and pretty much go ahead straight towards Magma Pool. I reckon that from there, we're probably going to see the Far Chozo elevator to Far Talon, go get Life Grove. And then probably just walk straight into Elite Research. That probably would be faster than trying to do any kind of save warp. And into Magma Pool we go. After this short intermission room. Fun fact, actually, you'll notice that the little warning bar fills up as we approach the door to Magma Pool. That's meant as a way to signal to the new players going through Ruined Fountain that this is not the way to go. Because obviously you can go to Magma Pool long before you have the various two. The way they did that, actually, is they just put a little pool of lava inside of the wall, essentially, right next to the door. And the lava is what actually triggers your warning indicator. Heated rooms don't actually have any way to inherently warn you. For good reason, obviously. If you have the Very Suit, that would be very annoying. And would not really be that helpful, actually. So it's that's sort of the workaround they did to prevent wasting a bunch of time actually making that work. Avvina also opting to use super missiles for Omega Pirate. MightyCaesar taking a save warp. Actually, this would probably be faster, because if we have to go through Frigate to get the talent, which we sort of do, starting in Elite Research, then going backwards up through to Late Talent, it just very naturally routes into that. I didn't really fully consider that. This is definitely a much stronger approach. I don't know why Caesar is swinging the laser around. We don't... I guess it is technically probably faster to go through ore processing. I guess it just didn't occur to me. Yeah, Caesar is not having issues with the ore processing climb, so this is definitely going to be faster to go from ore processing through waste disposal back to main quarry, instead of going through the security room, which is relatively slow. Ooh, gets hit by a Talon Metroid. That's pretty bad luck. It isn't too tricky to make this last leg of the climb, because we have the grapple beam. Even without the grapple beam, this isn't that tricky. Very manageable. Very manageable. Using the boost ball to boost against that wall is definitely a big time saver. If you don't do that, then you kind of slowly float down to the bottom of the water tank in waste management, or waste disposal. So that is definitely a good little optimization. Not a huge difference maker, but it helps. It absolutely helps. This is also an important part of the Hydroaxis tunnel strategy if you don't have the gravity suit. It's the only way to get the hat item without gravity. You see, Avvina is choosing not to attempt the standable climb for Phase on Processing Center. Instead, choosing to use sort of the intended method, working with those moving platforms, which is quite a bit slower. And now, since we are on the low side of the Great Tree, we can just do the boost spinner like in vanilla to lower the bars. Reverse bar skip is only really something we think about if we don't have the boost ball. We very much do have it in this case. Did Avvina attempt the standable climb? I almost said the standable crime. I don't think they're doing anything illegal today, even if they are breaking the rules of the developers. Oh, Avvina's pronouns are he, him. At least according to the race time room. We don't have a power bomb, but thankfully we can get one off of this enemy right here, which has sort of been hard-coded to almost always drop one. Fortunately, this little cover is not made of Bendesium, so we can't use normal bombs to destroy it. It's going to be our last artifact, the Artifact of Truth. And now we just have to do reverse frigate. Oh no, routing through Chozo it looks like. Oh yeah, this would be faster. Completely skipped my mind that we can just do the frigate crash site elevator. That just did not occur to me at all. My apologies. I'm a cringe commentator. I'm a complete cringe commentator. Well, actually, pretty much all of our artifacts are locked behind items that Avvina doesn't have. Magma Pool, Lava Lake, Warrior Shrine, and Storage Cavern are locked by various suit, at least in some capacity. And Life Grove and Elite Research are locked by the boost ball, so we're missing both items. At least Avvina is to go get any of our artifacts, really, even if he wanted to go get some. So that's why Caesar has 6 artifacts while Avvina has 0. The reason that Caesar is so far ahead is just from better play in general and taking fewer deaths in the opening part of the race. He did still take some, that's worth mentioning. He didn't do it flawlessly. But Avvina really struggled with a lot of the damage because we didn't start with energy tanks and didn't find them for... Essentially, we didn't find any until we were already out of the woods. Caesar takes the final ship save. We have, I believe that's 130 missiles going into final bosses. With the boost ball, that's going to be a pretty generous budget to work with. We have Ice Spreader and Super Missiles, so we are going to make pretty effective use of those in the Exo fight. And just individual missiles are going to be very helpful during Ridley, although you don't need that many. Yes, our start was Elite Research in this race. Not the first race to start there. No flyby skip today. Ridley deals a monstrous 15 damage with that bomb. I'm not exactly quaking in my boots. Avvina is going for a reverse fight skip here by the control tower. This could be pretty tricky. Definitely harder to do backwards than forwards, but we managed to pull it off. That's going to let us skip a pirate fight in that room, which is definitely a time saver. Yeah, Research Lab Hydra, our very suit, is definitely, we're going to check that for certain. We have our super missile, so we can get it as well. We don't just have the X-ray to peek it. Very good Ridley fight. Not flawless. Could have gotten flyby skip and could have been slightly better at that last phase, but there's not really that much to complain about there. Avvina acquires the Veritas suit. Doesn't seem terribly pleased about it. We still have the vast majority of our missiles left, so the refill station in Impact Crater, like always, is going to be neglected. We are doing a sort of a fast climb here. We don't get bothered at all by the fission Metroid, thankfully. So we're going to be able to hop across and get to the boss door very quickly. We skip the spider track, obviously, and start our fight. Now during phase 1, Exo can switch between the power and wave phases. We prefer him to be in the wave phase, where as little time as possible. In this case, he chose to start with wave. Now he's going to, for these first few chambers, switch back and forth between them in a fairly predictable way, but once we make it to chamber 4, it is going to be essentially random the way that Exo chooses to behave. And we get a nice super missile there. We can do super missiles quite a bit. Since we have our supers, we have a lot of missiles. The two beam combos that we actually want to use are super missiles and the ice spreader. Flamethrower, which we also have, is very not useful, so we're going to be ignoring it completely. The short range makes it very difficult to hit Exo with it anyway, so it's not very... It's negligible damage and high ammo usage are not going to help its case any. Even without that, we wouldn't really want to use Flamethrower very much. And we don't even have the Wave Buster. Lands that Ice Spreader shot. Lands the turnaround shot. Very good. That's going to let you skip most of the next phase there, or actually all of the next phase, since it moves on to the next sub-chamber. The reason we wait on that turnaround shot is specifically to skip a phase, since Ice tends to be actually one of the better phases to get. Certainly better than Wave. Everything is better than Wave. So we do that damage very late into the animation to try and make that damage carry over to the next phase, and let that next phase end very quickly. The only phase that we don't actually want to skip is Plasma, since that one's very good. Plasma is the best phase by a very wide margin. Even though the Flamethrower is not useful, the Plasma Beam on its own deals just an astronomical amount of damage. Unfortunately, we do end up skipping that Plasma phase, so not ideal. The actual unfortunate part is that the phase after Ice was Plasma. It tends to be better if you can sort of intersperse them, so that you get an Ice phase, then you get one of the nasty phases, and your Ice phase lets you skip that, and then you get a Plasma phase after that. That's sort of what you're hoping for. At least from what I gather, that's what runners seem to agree on when they speak about it. I'm not the most experienced with final bosses. I believe we are in our final sub-chamber now. Yes, Plasma phase was mixed in last, so that this has to be sub-chamber 4. This means that Exo can do essentially whatever it wants at any time. It can switch phases whenever it wants, it can charge. It doesn't actually have any time limit, so it can switch phases so fast that you cannot deal damage to it before you're finished switching your beams. This means that it's technically possible for it to essentially prevent you from doing damage ever. This is obviously statistically impossible, but it is technically, theoretically something that could happen. One interesting thing that it can do is that it can actually double its animation speed. Essentially moving twice as fast. That's something you'll see it able to do. This can be a little bit bonky sometimes. It can actually double its dying animation speed like this in some circumstances. This looks a little strange, but it's definitely something our runners like to see happen, since it saves a little time. It's not actually that important since we can skip the cutscene of us jumping down. It's just that little cutscene you saw there, the mini cutscene of him tumbling over the edge, that gets sped up. And now we're on to Essence. This is essentially an auto-scroller. MightyCaesar here is wasting missiles, and it does not matter because missiles are not any use to us. The only way to deal damage to Essence is with these pools of phasons that it's going to drop at a moment here. The only ammo type we want to conserve is power bombs because those are a way of dealing with the fission Metroids that it deploys. Without power bombs, they actually split into multiple enemies upon being defeated, which is very annoying. It's very hard to deal with very fast. You're going to be seeing different techniques used in this fight. One of these is going to be beam canceling, where you start firing and stop firing very quickly to sort of preserve how much phase on is left in the pool. On top of that, you can see pool canceling, which I'm not sure if MightyCaesar was doing just there, where you move in and out of the pool repeatedly to avoid hurting the pool even more. I'm not super knowledgeable on these strategies, but you'll see almost all of our runners try to do them to at least some extent. The goal is to essentially be attacking Essence the entire time between dropping pools. This means that Essence doesn't have any free time to attack you itself because it's constantly getting stunned. Like you can see here, it just constantly has this recoil animation where it isn't able to do anything else. That's exactly what we want to see. And we're going to be able to finish off the race now. MightyCaesar is now done. He has finished the race with an official racetime.gg time of 1 hour, 42 minutes, and 15 seconds. Avvina, meanwhile, has opted to forfeit, which is understandable given the amount behind that he is. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Nice to have you in here at MightyCaesar. What did you think of that seed? I imagine you have quite a lot to say.
The optimal routing for that seed would be very, very interesting to route out.
That's definitely, I would say, a bit of a silver lining way to view this seed. It was an interesting puzzle. That's one way to look at it. Avvina is in the waiting area. We'll be joined by him shortly. Do you have any regrets about how you routed that seed? Things you might have been able to do better? Because I noticed both you and Avvina would occasionally sort of stop and think and be like, hang on, where can I go
thought for
here?
a little bit early on, after I got the spider ball and space jump boots, whether or not jumping into lower mines or continuing through to the frigate and clearing out all of Talon and Chozo would be more worth it. And then I decided, because I had died against the wave pirates, I didn't want to go into lower mines without more E-tanks, so I went for the other play. Also, bonus is getting artifacts and just much better item density.
Yeah, definitely. Avvina, what are your thoughts on this seed?
That was quite a start.
Yeah, one E-tank for very long. Both of you took deaths there. I think you took
Railroaded
a bit
combat.
more.
I took 2, I think. Just railroaded combat into good luck. You have the entire world. Brutal.
Yeah, that one was really quite a gauntlet. So, do you want to know where the boost ball was?
Yes, more than anything.
That was in Ice Chapel.
Oh, I was right there.
Yeah, you were very close to getting that, but MightyCaesar was like just very ahead of you. Combination of taking fewer deaths. I actually think you took more like 3, maybe 4. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, I took 2, and then I took another one after I got plasma, so 3 total.
Yes. Combination of taking fewer deaths. His death was actually first, so he didn't have as much time to make up from that first death. I think he might have took another one after that. I'm not sure.
No, I only took the one death.
All right, and on top of that, just cleaner execution, at least in my opinion.
Oh, no, for sure. I don't even have to look at his. I was not doing great. I know he's way better than I am at just movement in general, so.
And I believe all of our races for today are already either ongoing or even possibly finished. We had another one that started at the same time as this one of Sparkle J versus Cosmonaut. One at 5:30 of Op 82 versus TGC, and a 6 p.m. race of Uncle Reggie versus Schwartz. I'm not sure if any of those are still going on. Most likely that last one is.
And yeah, it would only be 47 minutes in, so that would be a very quick race otherwise.
Yes, it's unlikely that they would have finished so quickly. Besides that, we do have 5 races on Saturday. One at 3 p.m., 2 at 4 p.m., 1 at 6 p.m., and 1 at 8 p.m. These times are all in Eastern Time. So definitely see about tuning into those. The details will appear later. Any other thoughts you guys want to add?
It's definitely not common for Vary and Boost to be go mode.
Yeah, that was definitely unusual. This preset has a lot of strange seeds. It's good to see the variety, certainly.
But still, even then, it wasn't too slow of a seed. For me, just on general settings, an hour and a half is about normal. So this was just a little bit slower than I normally would be.
Yeah, prime seeds generally don't tend to get much longer than this. This is sort of about at the upper boundary when you have a player like MightyCaesar in the game who can pretty consistently pull out the tricks that are needed. It can be slower if you have a player who struggles with tricks. Yeah. Avvina didn't really struggle with tricks so much as just struggled with overall movement and routing, yes. Their execution was not perfect, but they never had any serious moment where we were watching them.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the last race I commentated, one of our racers spent several minutes trying to get Tower of Light. Avvina didn't have any moments that were like that. Like a solid 5 minutes.
That because early on, when I had to go back into mines immediately after leaving it, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get the save station because I actually know how to do advanced bomb jumps, and that gave me a bit more comfort early on.
Avvina tried to do that, but struggled with it.
I looked it up and I was like, yeah, okay, I think I can do this. It should be fine. I don't need to learn a trick in the middle of a race.
It was kind of funny that I wasn't able to get the HBJ and had to just UBJ it instead.
You can UBJ it.
Yes, that's actually what we saw MightyCaesar do, just, abusing that reset timer on the bombs. That's totally possible without actually messing with the wall collision.
Probably one of the other moments that I liked as far as just my overall performance was when I'm like, okay, so I could either save warp back to get back to mines after I'd done my Chozo clear, or I can just go for bar skip. I should be able to get that a lot faster, and got it second try, which is always a good feeling.
Nice. I thought about it. I almost did it, and then I was like, no, I'm not playing well. I feel very behind.
Any final thoughts before I close things out?
Yes, thank you for not bringing up my pre-Flagra, forgetting about super missiles.
Oh, I completely missed that, if I'm being honest.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, I shot normal missiles at the blast shields. And was confused when I couldn't scan it.
It was a fun race. And thanks to Peter and Nasu for commentating and tracking.
You're welcome. I definitely appreciate the thanks. I apologize. I'm probably going to just close things out now. My voice is a bit hoarse.
Understand.
Yeah, that happens when you solo commentate.
Yeah, no kidding, no kidding. That was a good one. We'll see you next time.
Everybody involved, and we'll see you guys next mission.